When winter came, Ice Age humans did not simply fight the cold. They faced choices that would horrify us today. When food became scarce, some groups smashed animal bones into pieces to extract the last traces of fat. They gathered around fires in enclosed shelters where smoke could become another danger. They prepared animal hides for clothing and entered deadly cold to hunt animals powerful enough to crush them in seconds. At some archaeological sites, human bodies were deliberately cut apart. In certain cases, the evidence points to cannibalism, although the reasons may have included ritual or mortuary practices rather than starvation. You may think our ancestors survived because they were stronger than us. They were not. The cold made them hungry, weak, and afraid, just as it would make us. They survived by adapting, cooperating, and making choices most of us cannot imagine making. But perhaps their darkest winter problem was not what to eat. It was deciding who should eat first and what happened when there was not enough for everyone. To understand how anyone could face that choice, forget everything winter means today. There were no heated homes, supermarkets, modern weather forecasts, or rescue teams. If a storm trapped your group, no outside help was coming. But the cold was only part of the danger. Staying warm, shivering, and moving through deep snow burned precious calories just when food became hardest to find. Edible plants became scarce. Lakes and rivers froze over, and animals migrated or became harder to track. Ice Age humans needed more food while the land offered less of it. And winter rarely killed everyone at once. It attacked slowly. First, fingers became numb. Then tools became harder to hold. Hunters grew weaker. Small injuries stopped healing. A wet hide or fur garment could pull heat from the body. One injured foot could turn a valuable hunter into someone who needed to be carried and fed. Every problem created another problem. The longer winter lasted, the fewer choices remained. Food eaten today could not be eaten tomorrow. Firewood burned tonight would be gone by morning. And every trip outside used energy the group might never replace. So one desperate task was extracting food from what appeared to be useless. Even after the meat was gone, bones could still contain precious fat. When we finish eating an animal, we usually think only bones are left. For Ice Age humans, those bones could still contain food. The first targets were often the large bones in the legs. People struck them with heavy stones until they cracked open. Inside was soft, fatty marrow, one of the richest sources of energy available. But in a severe winter, even the marrow might not be enough. At some Ice Age sites, highly fragmented bones suggest another technique, grease rendering. Bones could be smashed into small pieces and heated in water so that droplets of fat rose to the surface. The fat could then be collected and eaten. It took time and exhausting work for a small amount of food. But when people were starving, every drop mattered. People also consumed parts of animals that many people avoid today. Organs, brains, tongues, and other tissues that could provide energy. Skulls could be broken open. Tendons could be removed and saved. Teeth and bones could become tools or ornaments. Very little needed to be wasted. Not because Ice Age humans had some perfect relationship with nature, but because waste could mean death. An animal was more than a meal. Its body could provide food, fuel, tools, bedding, cord, and shelter material. After the flesh and fat were gone, even the skin had a purpose. But turning a fresh hide into something wearable was slow, bloody work. It had to be cut away from the body, scraped clean, stretched, dried, and softened. If it was prepared badly, it could become stiff, rot, or offer little protection from the wind. For Ice Age humans, surviving winter did not simply mean eating dead animals. It also meant wearing them. A loose hide could provide some warmth, but in brutal cold it left dangerous openings around the neck, arms, and legs. Wind could enter through every gap, stealing body heat even while the person was moving. In the coldest conditions, some Ice Age humans needed clothing that fit more closely around the body. First, the hide had to be separated from the animal. Pieces of flesh and fat were scraped away. Then the skin was stretched, dried, worked, and softened until it could bend without tearing. The process could take days. Fresh hide smelled of blood and fat. Hands became covered in grease. Scraping the skin required patience and strength, but rushing the work could ruin the material standing between a person and death. Then came tools that transformed their chances of survival. Bone awls, and by around 40,000 years ago in parts of Eurasia, eyed needles made from bone or ivory. Probably using sinew, gut, or plant fiber as thread, people could join pieces of hide together. They could create clothing that covered their arms, legs, hands, feet, and heads. This challenges the old image of Ice Age humans wearing one loose piece of fur. Their clothing could be carefully shaped, layered, and repaired again and again. What looked primitive was actually life-saving technology. A dead animal could provide material for coats, footwear, bedding, shelter coverings, and cord. But every hide eventually wore out. Every meal eventually disappeared. And every fire eventually needed more fuel. No matter how well Ice Age humans protected themselves, they could not remain inside forever. Sooner or later, someone had to leave the warmth, enter the cold, and find another animal. The problem was that the animals they needed could easily kill them first. Imagine stepping out of the shelter knowing you might never return. The cold was already draining your strength. Snow-covered tracks. Wind reduced how far you could see or hear. And somewhere ahead was an animal much faster and possibly much larger than you. Ancient hunters did not have guns. They carried wooden spears, sharp stone points, and a plan that could fail at any moment. Several hunters might work together to separate one animal from its herd. They could surround it, trap it against the landscape, or drive it toward a place where escape was difficult. Everyone had to move at the right time. If one hunter acted too early, the animal could flee. If someone stood in the wrong place, it could charge. A large animal could kick, crush, gore, or trample a person in seconds. Even a smaller injury could become deadly. A deep cut could become infected. A damaged hand could no longer hold a weapon. A broken leg could leave someone unable to walk. And one injured hunter created a terrifying problem for the entire group. They had lost someone who could bring back food. Now they had someone who needed to be carried, protected, and fed. But refusing to hunt was not safer. Waiting inside meant watching the food disappear while everyone became weaker. So people entered the cold because risking death today might prevent starvation tomorrow. Sometimes they returned with enough meat and fat to keep everyone alive. Sometimes they returned with nothing, and sometimes they returned carrying one of their own. That was when hunger stopped being only physical pain. It became a moral decision. Because when the remaining food could not feed everyone, the group might face a question no person should ever have to answer. Who should receive the next bite? Should the strongest hunter receive more food because that person might bring back the next meal? Should a child eat first because the child has an entire life ahead? Should food go to the injured person who might recover or be saved for those still strong enough to work? And what about an older person carrying years of knowledge but no longer able to hunt? We cannot know how every Ice Age group answered these questions. Different families and communities would have made different choices. But under severe food shortages, the problem could become unavoidable. Food given to one person could not be given to another. Sharing everything equally might sound fair, but a tiny portion could leave everyone too weak to survive. Feeding the hunters more might help the whole group. Or it could mean watching someone else slowly starve. And hunger does more than cause pain. It drains strength. It makes the body colder. It makes clear thinking difficult. As the days pass, every conversation can begin to circle around food. Every hidden piece can become a source of suspicion. The group might boil old bones again, hoping more fat remained. They might chew tough pieces of skin or search places they had already emptied. But eventually, nothing edible might be left. This is where the story becomes harder to separate from myth. Archaeology cannot tell us how often winter hunger led people to abandon the weak or consume the dead. But archaeology does show that some Ice Age communities deliberately processed human bodies. At several Paleolithic sites, human bones carry cut marks and fractures made with stone tools. Some even bear human tooth marks. At Gough's Cave in England, human bones dating to around 14,700 years ago show defleshing, deliberate breakage, and human tooth marks, strong evidence of cannibalism. Human skulls at the site were also carefully cleaned, broken, and shaped into cups. This does not prove that starvation caused the cannibalism. The careful treatment suggests that ritual or mortuary meaning may also have been involved. Whatever the reason, people at Gough's Cave did not merely cut apart human bodies. They turned human skulls into cups. But the archaeological record tells another story, too. Ice Age humans did not survive only by taking from the dead. They survived by caring for the living. One person could not hunt, protect the fire, prepare hides, watch children, care for the injured, and guard the shelter at the same time. Survival required a group. One person might be skilled at following animal tracks. Another knew how to shape a sharp stone point. Someone else understood how to prepare hides, repair clothing, find dry fuel, or remember where animals had moved during an earlier winter. None of these skills looked heroic on their own. Together they kept everyone alive. Even sharing knowledge could be as valuable as sharing food. A person who remembered a hidden cave, an unfrozen stream, or a safer hunting path could save the entire group. Ice Age people also formed connections beyond their own family. In some regions, archaeologists have found tools and ornaments made from materials sourced hundreds of kilometers away. This suggests that people traveled long distances, or that materials passed between groups through networks of exchange. They may also have exchanged information. If animals disappear from one area, another group might know where they had gone. If one family lost its fire or food, an old friendship could mean shelter instead of death. This challenges the idea that Ice Age survival belonged only to the strongest. A powerful hunter could still become injured. A healthy person could still become lost. Someone who hoarded one meal might keep it but lose the trust needed to survive the next storm. Cooperation gave groups a better chance to plan, teach, share, and survive together. Winter made every piece of food valuable. It also made anyone who needed additional food or care harder to support. Yet skeletal evidence from some Paleolithic individuals shows that people survived serious injuries and impairments long enough to require continued care from others. A group that never cared for its injured would leave everyone vulnerable because anyone could become the next person who needed help. Ice Age humans survived because they depended on one another. And that brings us back to the shelter where our story began. The food is almost gone. Someone is injured. And the fire is dying. Shh. Now imagine you are inside that shelter. The remaining food may not feed everyone until morning. The injured person cannot hunt, but abandoning them would mean betraying someone who once helped keep the group alive. Outside, the cold is getting worse. Inside, every person is waiting for a decision. What would you protect first? The food? The injured person? The children? Or the trust holding the group together? We may never know exactly what every Ice Age family chose. But their bones, tools, clothing, technology, and networks of cooperation reveal something important. They were not mindless brutes. They were intelligent, adaptable people facing dangers most of us have never experienced. And perhaps that is the most frightening part. The distance between their choices and ours may be smaller than we want to believe. So here's the question I want to leave you with. What is the one rule you would refuse to break even if keeping it could cost you your life? Leave your answer in the comments and explain why. Subscribe for more stories, uncovering the darkest and most surprising sides of human history. Our ancestors left behind bones, tools, and scars. But their darkest secrets may still be buried waiting to change what we believe humans are capable of.